Hello everyone and welcome to Düsseldorf, where we will be recording an onboard lap of the Querfeldrhein Gravel Und Cross-Festival 1 week before the racing takes place here. We have been invited by the organizers of the Querfeldrhein Gravel Und Cross-Festival, which will be held at the Galopprennbahn, which is better known as the horse running track. The track is situated in the outskirts of Düsseldorf. Really on the edge, you have a very nice view of the German countryside from the venue. The course has a couple of interesting features, a bit of sand, a bridge, hurdles and some minor elevation. So without further ado, let's get into it. We come onto the course through the final corner here under the new grandstand, which is normally used for people to watch horse racing, but next week will be used by people who will be watching cyclocross. The finish will be right up here on top of this small hill on this gravel path. The run from the final corner to the finish line is around 150 meters, which is just enough that you are able to overtake somebody, but ideally you will be coming through that final corner first if it comes down to a sprint. As we pass the old grandstand, we go through the gate and we head down. We are still racing on a gravel/sand path. It becomes a bit more sandy from here, but it is pretty fast. Next week we'll probably be taking the downhill on the grass, but this is just an estimation of the course. Based on the ideas of the course builder, the conditions, whatever is allowed by the host venue, they will set out a course during the week. It is a pretty fast course. It has a lot of gravel/sand, but also plenty of grass, which we'll be going towards right now. We sweep by the first pit zone. Right here it will be on the right hand side, double pit as is mandatory by UCI, and then we will be coming towards the horse running track, which we will be crossing right now. During the week they will build a bridge here to ensure that the horse running track stays in perfect position. So this part here will be on a bridge, and then we're onto the infield of the horse running track. The infield here is just a grass path, and it will be a pretty long straight, maybe with some swerving corners in it, but nothing too technical. Based on the feedback they have received from the riders who raced here last year when it was not a C2 event, they have decided to reduce the amount of corners in the course. Instead, they are going for a slightly faster course. It should be more entertaining for the spectators to see grouped racing. It's not on TV, so they don't need to worry about adding TV corners in order for the sponsors to be on the TV a bit longer. So it should be pretty fast racing between pretty good riders. There's riders coming from all over Europe, from Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, a couple of Scandinavian riders. But here we reach the end of the first straight, the long stretch. Then the way back will be a bit more technical. As you can see on the left, there is a practicing course for the horse riders. We will be using that sand path a couple of times. We'll dip in and out, and that will look something roughly like this. The sand is pretty loose. You should be coming in at a way higher speed than we are doing here if you want to make it through, but it is pretty challenging here, especially because the horses have been running through here. They reached speeds of 70 kilometers per hour. We will not be reaching that next week on the cyclocross bike, but still it should be doable to ride. But those in and out here, they can be technically deciding and create a few gaps. Again, how many times we'll go through the sand pit and how long, that will depend on the balance that will be found during the week, also based on the conditions. If the infield here is too wet, it would be way too much running, so they might shorten it a bit because this part has the potential to become very, very muddy. It hadn't rained much this week, but I could already feel that there was still a bit of water in the ground there because it's the lowest point of the course. We cross the horse running track again. This will be a bridge once again, and once you are over the bridge, we swoop by the second pit zone, which will again be on the right hand side here on this grass field. The race is held at a really wonderful location. It is in an urban area. It's on the outskirts of Düsseldorf in the North Rhine-Westphalia region of Germany, but because you're on the outskirts and you have this super nice view, it doesn't feel like you're in the city. It's a very calming location, although I can imagine that will be different next week with all the riders here and the DJ blasting some real cyclocross music. As we pass through the hedge, we have just passed the second pit zone, and we will be heading towards the hurdles now. The hurdles are a light version of the Tabor ones, and light in the very most literal sense that you can take that. The incline towards the barriers is not as steep as in Tabor, but it is enough to make a difference. We will be swooping onto the grass first here, before we head back to the gravel path which we took in the beginning, but will likely not be used next week. That is where the hurdles will be placed, just like last year. On this uphill here, we will be having the barriers right at the top, so it will be super difficult for the riders to jump the 40 centimeter plank before we swoop right here and go back through the gate. This is the narrowest part of the course and can be a bit of a bottleneck in the first lap, but that is why the start is not at the same place as the finish. We now cross the plaza of the festival. This is where the vendors will be, where the DJ will be playing, where there will be food and drinks, and the riders will be coming through. They take this very long swooping left-hander here, and then we will get into probably the most challenging part of the course, the sand pit. And it is a very long sand pit. This is normally where the horses and the riders are presented, but we take a left-hander, it's a U-turn, and then we're into the sand pit. It is not that wide, the grass on the inside will be blocked off, and there is a very easy line around the outside at the moment, but that will be loosened for next week. I could use it nicely to get some speed, because this last part of the sand pit here is very loose, and you can't edge out on the grass there, peel out. That's not possible here. There's still a bit of a loose sand before we go through the gate, which will be wide open next week, and are onto this tarmac straight. This is also where the start will be. We are heading towards the final third of the lap. This is a very nice wide road for a start. It's pretty smooth tarmac. There's a couple of small stones there, but that should not be an issue. Punctures or anything should not be an issue here. I would probably see most riders running the chicane thread on this course if the weather holds, but at the moment there is a little bit of light rain forecasted. The start is slightly uphill before you take this downhill here and head into towards the first corner, which is a 90-degree right-hander. We quickly teleport through the gate, which will obviously be open next week before we get into this downhill here. This section here on the left might see the addition of a couple of corners that could be potentially skipped in the first lap, but that will again be decided during the week. What is for sure is that we will have a U-turn before we head up this hill again, which will include a couple of corners around these trees. The elevation is not that serious. I would say that if you're evenly matched, you're not going to drop somebody here, but at the end of the race you'll definitely be feeling the elevation here. It has the potential for a couple of tricky or more gnarly corners, mainly because of the roots of the tree, but you go down again and then we head in towards the final part of the course. We take a swooping left followed by a swooping right here, and then we're on to another grass field with some corners around a couple of trees. The course is pretty nice. It flows really nice. The grass is pretty smooth. It has the potential to be fast and exciting. It feels very much like a park cross. I would say it reminds me a little bit of Tabor in some aspects, but the elevation is a lot less significant than in Tabor. This is the final uphill stretch, and from here on it's really all out to the finish line because you're almost there. It's just this quick left-hander on the gravel. From here on it's only gravel towards the finish line. You pass the commentator's tower and are under the new grandstand again. From here on it's not that far to the finish line on top of that bump. And that will complete a lap of the Querfeldrhein Gravel Und Cyclocross Festival in Düsseldorf.